information if they want to share, they'll come. In that case, what happens? So if I am doing class, I need to stop whatever I am explaining. Okay, I need to address that particular person. What is the problem or what they've got? Okay, I have to stop my task or whatever the lecture I am doing. I need to interact with that person. Okay, so after some time, once I come to know that what is the information, what I will do, I'll just come back, I'll share that information, and I'll just continue with the class where I have stopped. Okay, so whatever the person he interrupted my class, no, so that concept we call it as interrupts, where it is going to stop the execution of the program, the normal execution of the program. So that is called as interrupt. It is not going to allow me to continue the classes. Okay, I cannot do because that is very important task. If somebody comes with some information to share, I need to talk to them. Okay, then I need to continue. So that's why interrupts are very, very important when we are designing the programs.
Hardware signals.
Yes, interrupts are nothing but it is in a hardware signal. So here whatever we are discussing at the hardware level, this module is completely at the hardware level. So whatever the concept or example I have taken here, the same thing it happens with respect to the IO device. Consider some particular IO device is performing particular operation. Okay, and one more device comes with one more particular operation to the processor. This is with respect to processor. Processor started executing some particular operation. Okay, one more new task comes and that is having higher priority. Okay, that is having higher priority. In that case, the processor should stop whatever it is doing the task because that is having lower priority. First, it has to address that particular interrupt. Okay, so why interrupt is occurred? The corresponding operation it has to perform. So the corresponding operation, how it is going to perform? By executing particular routine or subroutine. Yesterday we discussed now. Similar to that, for each interrupt request, when it encounters, there is a particular task to be performed. So that we call it as interrupt service routine. Okay, in simple I can call this as ISR. So with respect to the interrupt request, it has to execute the interrupt service routine. That is nothing but this is got from particular IO device to perform particular operation. It has to execute that operation. Once it is done, then go back to the program where the processor is stopped and it is going to continue. Okay, so this is called as interrupts. And we have one more method I told, direct memory access. Okay, so that is transferring of data between memory and IO device. Okay, it is going to take lot of time. We have discussed that just reading one instruction there is so much of procedure. Okay, it requires lot of memory access time to transfer the data. In that case, each time for each data transfer, if processor is involving, okay, if I want to transfer large amount of data, so everything if it is under the control of processor, okay, so in that case the processor cannot perform any other useful task. It will be just involving in transferring of the data. Instead of that, whenever if it requires to transfer large amount of data or bulk of data, it can be transferred directly from memory to the device. Okay, so that how it is done, what are the mechanisms are used, we'll discuss that in direct memory access. So now let's understand what are interrupts. Okay, very, very important. So even we have faced in real time. Okay, even in your programs also, when you are writing C program, what happened did you observe using functions? Okay, you will write. Yesterday we have taken example of add 2, 3, some particular function. What happened here? So this is normal execution of the program. Whenever execution encounters here, it is going to stop the execution of this further statement and the control is given to this function. It goes to that particular function. Okay, whatever the instructions here it is specified, it is going to execute that. Once it is completed, okay, and it is going to come back, and wherever the instruction execution is stopped for this main program, it will continue. This is also a type of interrupt. These are all called software interrupts. So here what we are going to discuss first is hardware interrupts. Okay, so how it is going to happen with respect to the IO devices. So you need to remember, yesterday we have discussed no one important thing. Whenever consider this is my subroutine, I'll just write here call and return. So I want somebody to tell what happens if there is a call instruction execution encounters. What is the first step? So we have discussed that call instruction performs two operations. One is whatever the address that is pointed by PC, that will be stored as a return address onto the, either it may be using link register. If it is more than one subroutine, it uses a stack, stores that address as return address onto the top of the stack, and the PC is loaded with the branch target address. The address of this subroutine is loaded into program counter and execution proceeds. So that is the second step. Similarly, return. So return means it has to return from the subroutine to the calling program where it was stopped. For that, whenever in the execution encounters for return, it is going to pop out the return address from the stack and store into program counter, and execution proceeds from that particular memory location. Okay, so this concept we have discussed in the subroutine. Now there are some of the important steps we are going to be considered even when it is handling the interrupts. Okay, whenever it is handling the interrupts, it is going to make use of this concept. So here, if you have observed, even in the yesterday's class, not only return address, we have used stack for passing the parameters, and also in case if this calling program, main program, if it is used any of the registers, that also we have just saved onto the top of the stack. Okay, and also local variables used by this particular subroutine, that is also we have saved on the top of the stack. And whenever it is returning some result to the subroutine, so that also we have passed through the stack. Now this stack mechanism or storing the status of this calling program and returning from the subroutine, okay, whatever we have discussed now, the same concept it is used with respect to interrupts. Okay, just remember this, I will explain when it comes. Everybody understood no yesterday's class subroutines? Okay, so whatever here I explained, the same thing it follows, but here I have written high level language, but yesterday we discussed with respect to assembly language. So in program controlled IO, listen carefully. So in program controlled IO, when processor continuously monitors the status of the device, it does not perform any useful task. That's what I am telling from that time. Okay, it is not performing any useful task when it is checking the status of the IO device. Okay, when it is keep on checking the status of the IO device, most of the time it is wasting its time in checking the status of the IO devices. So now how to overcome with that? What is the alternative approach for that? An alternative approach would be for an IO device to alert the processor when it becomes ready. Okay, I told instead of going each individual student and check the assignment is done or not, so which all the student are all completed the assignment, you can just notify to me indicating I have done. Then for me it is going to be easy. No need to check all 66 students. Okay, I can just get some, maybe not everybody will do, no, at least I may get 25 students have done. So remaining students, checking of remaining student can be avoided. So that I can use it for doing some other task. The same manner, okay, here you are going to change this program controlled IO mechanism in some other approach. What are those other approach? We are going to just check it. So one method is, so what is the technique the other or alternative approach should have? So whichever the device, IO device, it becomes ready, so let the device notify to the processor. Okay, processor should not go and check the IO device. If all these devices are IO devices and this is the processor, okay. So instead of processor polling each device and check the status, so once the device is ready, let this device notify to the processor. Until that, the processor let perform some other task. So in that case, we can utilize the processor efficiently. Okay. So the main advantage of interrupts are we need to utilize the CPU efficiently. The processor should be utilized efficiently. So for that reason, we are going to use this interrupt concept. So how it can be done? How this device, IO device, can alert to the processor indicating I am ready. Okay, for that it requires do send by sending an hardware signal. Okay, by sending a hardware signal called interrupt to the processor. Okay, so here now it is going to generate the interrupt signal to the processor, and processor will come to know that the device is ready. Okay, so what are interrupts here? So interrupts are nothing but it is a hardware signal generated by the IO device to the processor. At least one of the bus control line. Then now question mark arise now how this signal is carried. We have discussed that whatever the address lines are there, so some address lines are dedicated for address, then some lines are for carrying the data and some line for control signal. Now whatever the control lines we have, among those set of control lines, one particular line it is going to dedicate for carrying the interrupt request. Okay. So at least one of the bus control line called interrupt request line dedicated for this. Okay, that particular line is dedicated only to carry the interrupt signal. Okay. From this what you can understand, at particular time only one device can send the interrupt request, not multiple devices at the same time, because if it is only one line it is dedicated. So processor can perform other useful tasks while it is waiting for the device to be ready. Okay, so that is one major requirement with respect to the interrupts. Okay, so interrupts, whenever if we are using the concept of interrupt, so it does not require to poll each device. Okay, it does not require to poll each device to check the device is ready or not. So it will be just keep on performing its own task, and once the device is ready, it is going to notify the processor. Okay, then when the notification comes, it can stop whatever the task it is doing and it will handle that interrupt. Okay, by executing a routine called interrupt service routine. Okay, it is nothing but it is a subroutine where it is performing a particular task with respect to that IO device. Yes, are you people are understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I'll take one example. Whatever example I have taken here with respect to the subroutine. So now we'll use the same concept to handle the subroutine. So you need to listen carefully. So to understand what is interrupt. So here I have program 1. That means this is one main program. And here I have interrupt service routine. So you need to understand what is interrupt service routine. Okay, if I have a number of devices connected to the bus, each device have its own interrupt service routine. Okay, where it is having some set of lines to perform the particular task. This is ISR1 with respect to device 1 and ISR2 with respect to device 2 and 3. Each device having its own interrupt service routine. Okay. So whichever the device it is interrupting the processor, and based on that interrupt request, the processor will execute the corresponding interrupt service routine where it is going to have some particular operation to be performed by that particular IO device. Okay. Okay. So let's discuss how these interrupts are handled. Okay. So now consider I have program 1 contains set of lines. Just observe what I am explaining. Program 1, it contains set of lines. Don't worry about what are those set of lines. Okay. So now consider the processor started executing all the statement that is present in this program. Consider now execution. It is arrived. Execution started for this particular instruction. Okay, that is the memory location or the line number of that instruction is ith line. Whenever the process started executing ith instruction, consider there is an interrupt encountered. There is an interrupt encountered here at this point of time. What happens? It's similar to your call statement. Just relate this to call statement. It is not same as that. So now whenever execution encounters for ith line, okay, consider there is an interrupt service request from a particular IO device. Whenever if there is an interrupt signal means it is a high priority, okay, it is a high priority task. High priority task. That means the processor has to first complete that task and then proceed with whatever the task it is doing now. Okay, that is urgent work. If there is any urgent work, so those operations or that information it is sent through the interrupt signal. Now whenever execution starts for ith line, consider there is an interrupt encounters. Now what it has to do? Now what the processor is going to do? Okay, listen carefully. The first step is before starting execution of interrupt service routine, it has to save the current state of execution of the program, no? Because whenever it returns from that particular interrupt service routine after handling the interrupt request, it should know from where it has to continue. And also it may be use some of the variable here, calculated something. So all this information, whatever it requires important information, it has to save it. Okay, it has to save the status of the current execution program before jumping to the interrupt request. Okay, even though interrupt request arrived, it will take some amount of time. So in that, what it is going to do, first step is it has to store the, whenever processor is executing ith line, PC is pointing to the i+1 address. Okay, i+1 line address. That means now it has to store this address, okay, to indicate it is a return address. Okay, whenever it's returned from that interrupt request, so it has to continue from that particular location, thinking that it has to save the content of PC as a return address onto the top of the stack. And also in case if it is computed something, if it is stored some value in the registers, okay, all that whatever it is required important thing with respect to that particular current running program, okay, it has to store or save onto the processor stack. This is stack. Okay, once it is done, then the control is given to the interrupt service routine. Okay, it is interrupt service routine with respect to particular IO device. Then it is specified, the processor is going to stop execution of this program and control is given to this particular interrupt service routine, and process start executing the first statement. Okay, all the statement whatever it is specified in the interrupt service routine. Once it is completed, it has to return back, the processor has to return back to its task where it was stopped the previous one. Okay, for that it has to restore. Okay, first before jumping to the interrupt service routine execution, it has to save the current state of the program. It will take some amount of time. Okay, some amount of time is taken to perform this, and whenever it is returning from the interrupt service routine, it has to restore all the values. Okay, what was the R1 value, register R1, R0, okay, everything it is going to restore. And also it requires to which location it has to start execution. Okay, from which location it has to start execution. So that address also it is there in the stack. It is going to pop out that, and that is loaded into program counter. Okay, that is i+1 address, i+1 line. So that address it is loaded into program counter, and processor will proceed execution of the program where it was stopped. Okay, so this is very similar to the subroutine, you can relate, but it is not a subroutine. We are going to use the different term here. That is called as interrupt. And also you cannot see here any call statement. It is normal simple execution of program. So here there will be a hardware signal arises whenever any device it want to perform high priority task, or if it is ready, it is going to send a hardware signal to the interrupt. Okay, so once the hardware signal comes, it has to save the current state of the program, and it is going to execute the corresponding interrupt service routine. Once it is done, it will come back and it will proceed with the execution of the program whatever it was stopped previously. Okay, are you people are understanding? I think it is easy, not much complex. I'm just going very slow. Okay, the same thing it is explained here. Okay, I already told treatment of interrupt service routine is very similar to subroutine. Only thing is you may not find that call statement here. Okay, instead of that it may be some particular statement. So whenever it is executing, so there in case if there is a signal comes here to the processor indicating it is having some urgent task, okay, then it will stop execution of the statement and it will proceed with the interrupt service routine execution. So it's very similar to the subroutine in terms of handling the interrupts. Okay, but there are some differences between the handling the subroutine and interrupt service routine. So what are those? Subroutine perform tasks that is required by the calling program. Okay, subroutine performs the task that is required. That means it is going to perform some particular task similar to your add function. Okay, if you have written add function where you will be having adding two numbers, that particular code, and it will execute. So interrupt service routine may not have anything in common with the program it interrupts. Okay, it may be not related to the program whatever it is executed by the processor. It is something else different with respect to the current running program. But in case of subroutine, it is very relevant. Whatever the program it is executing, main program, in the main program itself, you are calling the subroutine. That means it is this subroutine is related to the calling program. But that is not the case in case of interrupts. So whatever the program it is executed by the processor, it may be not relevant to the whatever the interrupt request it comes. Both are totally, it may be different. Interrupt service routine and the program that interrupts may belong to different user. Okay, obviously. But in case of in subroutine, this main program you have written, this function also you have written. But in case of interrupts, what happens? This is by some other user, okay, and this is by some other user. So that is one more important difference. So as a result, before branching to the interrupt service routine, see I am using branching. That means it has to, branching means whenever CPU is executing this instruction, okay, actually it has to, after execution of this, it actually it has to go for next line I plus 1. But if there is some conditions due to some reasons, the execution of the next instruction may not take place. Instead of that, it is something else. It has to branch to some other address. Okay, so that is called as branching. So as a result, before branching to the interrupt service routine, not only PC, okay, I am just now explaining before jumping to the interrupt service routine what it has to perform. Not only PC but other information such as condition code flags, processor registers used by both interrupted program and the interrupt service routine must be saved. I have already explained here. Before, whenever interrupt encounters, immediately it is not going to start execution of interrupt service routine. Before that, it has to save the current status of this particular program. It may be conditional code flags. Recall what are conditional code flags. Some registers values if it is used. Then it has to store the return address. Okay. So all that information it has to store. Then afterwards, it is going to start execution of interrupt service routine. But in case of the same thing, it happens even in subroutine also. with respect to this point. This will enable the interrupted program to resume execution upon return from the interrupt service routine. Why you are going to store all these things? Because after execution of this interrupt service routine, it has to continue its execution from the point where it was stopped instead of start from beginning. Okay. So for that reason, it is going to store the state of this particular current running program. And once it returns from interrupt service routine, it has to restore all these values I have explained here, how it will restore from the process stack. Okay, it is going to restore everything and execution proceed with the program where it was stopped. Okay, these are the major difference between the subroutine and interrupts. Okay, who all understood yesterday's class, you can just relate that to interrupts and understand what are the major difference. Next. Okay, so next one is very important. You may get question on this also, interrupt hardware. What is interrupt? Explain interrupt hardware. See here, this time whatever the questions I am going to give, these are all little bit lengthy questions. You have to learn in detail. Okay, you have to learn in detail. So now before going to interrupt service routine, there are two definitions related to what I explained now. Okay. One is interrupt latency. Okay, so what is interrupt latency tells? So that is a saving and restoring of registers involves memory transfer. Okay, memory transfer means where you are storing the data into the memory. So this increases the total execution time. Okay, so if it is execution of the program only the set of lines without any interruption, then the total time taken, it is going to be less. In case during execution of this program, if there is an interrupt, the total time taken, it is going to be increased, because not only execution of the interrupt service routine, but it has to perform storing, okay, saving of current information of this program, and whenever it returns from the subroutine, it has to restore. So it requires some amount of time. So that time we call it as interrupt latency. There is a delay. Okay, so increase the delay between the time. It increases the time delay between the interrupt request is received. Consider it is received the interrupt request at 10 o'clock. Okay, 10 to 01 second. Consider it is received the interrupt request at this time. Immediately it is not going to start execution of interrupt request. It may take 10 o'clock 03 seconds to start execution of interrupt service routine. So in that 2 seconds, what it has performed? It has performed the saving and restoring of the register information. Okay. So the time delay we call it as interrupt latency. Increase the delay between the time an interrupt request is received and start the execution of the interrupt service routine. Okay, when the interrupt request comes and when execution starts, whatever the time delay between the start and execution of ISR, we call it as the delay, we call it as interrupt latency. You may get question for 1 mark, 2 mark. Okay, define interrupt latency. You have to explain. You have to write this answer. What is interrupt latency? Why interrupt latency occurs? And how to reduce the interrupt latency? How you can reduce this 2 seconds to 0.5 seconds? Okay, so in order to reduce the interrupt latency, most of the processors save only minimal amount of information. Okay, so it is not going to save all the content of the register. Okay, only important information, whatever it is required to proceed the execution. Okay, that information it is going to store. So if you minimize the amount of information you are storing, okay, it is going to be useful, or it is going to reduce the interrupt latency. Okay, it will reduce the latency. So this minimal amount of information includes program counter and processor status register. Okay, so this is must program counter, that is the return address. Okay, and some important status register information. These are the minimum information it has to store. In additional to this, if anything is required, it is going to store that also. Any additional information that must be saved explicitly by the program instruction. So at the beginning of the interrupt service routine. Okay, so one more definition, that is interrupt service routine. Okay, let me just explain you. So there is one more definition. What is interrupt service routine? I'll just explain. So this also you may get. So for definition or explain briefly what is interrupt service routine. So here processor is executing the instruction located at address I. Okay, when an interrupt occurs. Whenever interrupt occurs when processor is executing at this particular location, the routine. Okay, routine means function. Routine executed in response to this interrupt request. Okay, the routine executed in response to this interrupt request, we call it as interrupt service routine. Okay, so whichever the request comes, whenever if there is an interrupt request, it requires, the indication is that it requires to execute some important interrupt service routine. So the important routine to be executed, that routine we call it as interrupt service routine. Okay, so that is all about the definition. Some of the terms you need to remember. One is interrupt latency, and another one is interrupt service routine. So now we'll move on to interrupt hardware. Okay, so still time is there. I'll just take this topic and I'll stop the class. And if you have any questions, note down. We'll discuss at the end of the class. Okay, this is also very, very important. What is interrupt hardware? That means now we have discussed that interrupt is a hardware signal. Okay, interrupt means it is hardware signal. Even we have in software also. At the last end of this topic, you are going to learn software interrupts. Even everybody, you know, like you have come across with those interrupts, maybe you are not aware of it. We'll discuss that at the end. So now we'll focus on hardware interrupt. Okay, so hardware signal, it is nothing but it is going to send the hardware signal. So now what is the circuit diagram used, how they have designed for sending this hardware signal? Okay, for this we have a small diagram, you need to write it here. Okay, this is the processor part, and this processor is connected with n number of devices. Okay, this is device 1, 2, 3, and each of these devices is connected to interrupt request line. I told in the beginning, to carry the interrupt request, we need a dedicated control line called interrupt request line. Interrupt request line. Okay, INTR. So this is the line where it is going to carry. Other things we have not written. Address bus, control bus, data bus we have not written. We are just focusing on interrupt request line. Okay. So now how this interrupt request line is designed. You can just see this is a device 1 and this is a switch. So it can, if it requires this device to be requesting the interrupt, so it is going to make use of switching on and off. Similarly this one, and like this there are n number of devices connected, and this is the voltage and the resistor connected to this interrupt request line. But here whatever the output that comes, okay, it is going to negate. Okay, if this is active and the interrupt request line here indicates it is negation, active means 1 and that is received at the processor is 0. Okay, in case if this interrupt request line is inactive means, so it is negated at the processor side, it indicates that the device is requesting the interrupt. Okay, so we'll just discuss how this circuit diagram works. So we discussed that IO device request an interrupt by activating a bus line called interrupt request line. Okay, all the device connected to the bus, okay, even they are connected to this interrupt request line. Through this only it can send the interrupt request. So most computers luckily to have several IO devices that can request an interrupt. Okay, a single interrupt request line may be used to serve n devices as shown in the figure. Okay, but at a time it can carry any one request, either maybe from device 1, 2 or 3. It cannot carry all the multiple devices at a time. Okay, in that case there will be a conflict to the processor which device made a request. So that also you are going to learn later. So all devices are connected to line via switches. Okay, so you can just see this is the switch, and these which are grounded. Okay, so these switches are grounded. So now how this switch works whenever the device want to request, just focus on that. Okay, we are not going to discuss why this line is represented like all those things. Okay, consider this is a switch. Whenever it opens and closes, what happens? Open means you can just see there is a disconnection. Close means so it has to connect these to a switch. So when exactly the switch is opened or when switch is opened, what happens? We'll discuss. To request an interrupt request, okay, so to request, whenever consider this device INTR1, that means interrupt request from device 1. If this device want to request an interrupt, so this device closes the switch. Okay, it closes the switch. Okay, if it is closes the switch, what happens? What happens if this switch is closed? Whatever the voltage that comes, okay, it is going to be grounded here. You can see grounded means the voltage it is going to be 0. Whenever if this device want to make a request for the interrupt, it closes the switch, and whatever the voltage that comes on this line, it is going to be 0. Okay, because this switch is grounded, and this 0 is this information is sent to the processor, and here it is going to negate, and it is going to perform the negation of 0 is 1, indicates that so this particular device made an interrupt request. Okay, so that is how once the switch is close and on, and other devices it will be keep on. Okay, it indicates that these devices not made a interrupt request. Okay, so thus if all the interrupt request signals are inactive, consider no device made an interrupt request. Okay, all the switches are open here. In that case, what happens? The voltage on this line, it is going to be high. Okay, and the negation of this voltage at the processor side, it is going to be 0, indicating no device made an interrupt request. Whenever any device want to make interrupt request, it is going to close the switch. Okay, and whatever the voltage comes on this line, it is going to be 0, and the negation of that at the processor side going to be 1. It indicates that some device made an interrupt request. Okay, that's all. The very simple hardware diagram. Just remember so how these devices are organized. Just explain about the interrupt request line, and just explain what happens when switch is open and when switch is closed. That's all. You have to explain in detail. If it is asked for more marks, try to define the information, all the information, whatever it is related to interrupts also. Okay. So when device requests an interrupt by closing switch, the voltage on the line drop to 0. That's what I told, because this switch is grounded. Whenever it is grounded, whatever the voltage that comes, it is grounded, and the voltage on this line, it is going to be a 0. It drops to 0, causing interrupt request line INTR received by the processor to be 1. That indicates that it is the active state of the interrupt request line. So now the value of INTR is logical OR. Consider in case you may ask the question, if more than one device made an interrupt request. In that case, consider these two closes this particular switch at the same time. What happens? the voltage here it is going to be 0, but how it is going to take the total value INTR2, this is INTR1. It is going to use the logical OR operation. Logical OR operation. Okay, logical operation that indicates INTR1 plus INTR2. Okay, it is going to perform any one of these. If it is true, so this line is going to be active. That's all. Is it clear? Yes. Any doubts as of now? Is it difficult to understand? So once after the class, okay, you try to go through this topic. Notes I have already uploaded in the team. Okay, try to understand. If you have any queries, we can discuss in the next class. Tomorrow we have college, no? In the college also you can ask the doubt. But before coming to the class, try to understand each topic. Okay, so for the test I have given till here. This is also I need to cover part. Okay, at least I need 2 to 3 more class. Till here I need to complete. So tomorrow we are going to discuss very important method with respect to interrupts. Okay, so we'll discuss how these interrupts are handled. So now you may ask the question like if two devices requesting interrupt, how processor will come to know that from which device made an interrupt request. Okay, and also how it will come to know that what is the address of its ISR interrupt service routine. Okay, from where it has to execute, what is the line or the address with respect to ISR. All these question arises. Okay, how to understand each of these questions in detail, we'll discuss in the tomorrow's class. So do you have any doubts here?